I would like to say a few words about sovereignty of God. Many people say that God is not fully sovereign, that there is some area in this world, in this life, that God left to people and God is not involved. But the truth is, down deep in your heart, you yourself don't believe that. You yourself know otherwise. The proof for it is your daily prayer. Well, you pray to God by asking Him for things. You pray to God by thanking Him for things. Doesn't that mean that you acknowledge that everything depends on God? When you pray, you actually humble yourself, showing God your helplessness and dependence to Him. You acknowledge that everything comes to you as a gift of God. You acknowledge that. You deep in heart believe that God is sovereign. And you also believe that God is sovereign in your salvation, because you give thanks to God for your conversion. You thank God that He gave you faith. You don't say it was accident, it happened by chance. No, you go to God and thank Him. So you acknowledge that it was from Him. You never say to God, "Oh God, how great that is that I saved myself, that I came to faith, that I converted myself, and now you can give me my salvation." It's a total blasphemy, total stupidity. When you pray, you thank God because you acknowledge that's from Him. You would never divide the glory that belongs to God for your salvation. You would never divide it between Christ and you. Would you say to God, "Oh God, I have some glory, you have some glory. My salvation is partly your salvation that you gave me. How great am I?" How'd that sound? That's stupidity, that's blasphemy. You acknowledge deep in your heart that it came from God, your conversion, your salvation. You would never thank yourself for faith instead of God. So you know, even though you don't want to recognize it by your mouth, but in heart, you know that. You also pray for conversion, for faith, for salvation, for your loved ones, for your friends. Why? You pray because you understand that this is solely dependent on God. This is solely up to God, up to His sovereignty. God is the one who gives. God is the one who doesn't give. God is the one who decides everything in this world. So nobody saves himself. How can somebody save himself without involving God in it? Without God being involved in it? We are unable. So we pray to God for others, that God changes their heart, that God gives them faith, that God just gives them different understanding different nature, and that they can come to God, because God is sovereign, and we know that. The truth is that this is all in our hearts, and the truth is where we stand with Christ in our hearts. Well, even though we all believe in sovereignty deep in heart, many of us reject that by saying we don't believe that. But you know that this is true. Like for example, when you pray the Lord's Prayer, you thank God for daily bread. When you thank God for daily bread, you don't inform God that you managed to make this bread for yourself, to get this bread for yourself. But no, you don't, because you acknowledge that this was because of God. God gave you daily bread. So you thank Him for it. If you don't do this, if you don't thank God for daily bread, if you don't thank God that you for your faith and for others' salvation, then most likely you are not born again, because you're totally missing the point. But if you are born again, deep in heart, you are Calvinist. Why? Because Calvinists believe that everything is of God and nothing is of man. Those who reject Calvinism reject true biblical doctrines. They try to involve man in our life. They try to say that God is not fully sovereign, that there are some things depending on man. For example, our salvation, our free will, and all those. But you know this is not true. You know that this is God who gave it to us. God chose us. God justified us by faith, of which we are not authors. God is the author of our faith. He gave us this faith. And He also perseveres us. He also keeps us in faith for the rest of our lives. This is God who keeps us in faith. We could not keep ourselves. We know that, we pray for that. But then there are others who reject that even though they pray for it. So there is confusion between heart and between mouth, between your brain that cannot accept the fact that there's nothing dependent on you. But you have to humble yourself. You have to give God glory, and you have to accept the fact that this is God who controls your life, and this is not you. Do that, and I see you in heaven.